Call this meeting to order. Mary, roll, please.
Archer.
Here.
Cloyd.
Here.
Howard.
Here.
Redland.
Here.
Showalter.
Here. Everybody join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. We'll start off with no public hearing. Move on to public comments. Do we have anybody signed up? Okay. Move on to consent agenda. Items A and B. Item A is the 1/5/2026 Commission meeting minutes. Item B, appropriation ordinances 2026-02 and 2026-02A and 2026-P02. Do we have any questions, comments, or concerns about the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items A and B.
I have a motion from Commissioner Redland,
Second.
second by Commissioner Artzer. Mary, roll please.
Cloyd.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Redland.
Yes.
Archer.
Yes.
Showalter.
Yes. I have no presentations and proclamations. We'll move on to ordinances and resolutions. Item A is ordinance 1814, text amendment section 19-501, use table for RV parks and residential zoning districts, conditional use. Kent, I'll let you start.
This is the ordinances that was given to the Planning Commission to consider. We had a citizen and actually a couple, the owners of the two commercial RV parks in town, come to a meeting in the fall and presented an issue about that there's a bunch of different people coming to town. We'd like this to be considered, to add the use of RV parks in residential zoning districts. It was initially brought up at a meeting, and then you guys asked staff to come up with an ordinance, and there's actually what comes back to you tonight is 3 different ordinances. They're all basically on the same topic. It was given to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission originally had some issues come up just because there was different variance requests and different site plans that came up, or actually a couple different variance requests that came to the Planning Commission in the fall. So there was extensive discussion regarding those individual cases that caused a little bit of hesitation at the Planning Commission. It was brought back to the City Commission, and just to make sure, wanted to go through the public hearing process. You gave direction to the Planning Commission to continue, and the Planning Commission set a public hearing and then held that public hearing last week at their meeting on January 13th. And then after the hearing was concluded, they took action according to the city code. And their role in this is to give a recommendation to the City Commission. And so they gave there's 2 different things they do. There is one section, and I included it in the City Commission communication form, the CCCF. It states in section 19-1609 regarding any amendments to the text of the zoning ordinance, to consider 3 different things, A, B, and C. Whether the change is consistent with the intent and purpose of the regulations, that's A. B is the areas which are most likely to be directly affected by such change and what way they'll be affected. And then C, whether the proposed amendment is made necessary because of changed or changing conditions in the area or zoning districts. And they had a discussion at the Planning Commission, and they basically agreed with item C, saying that changing conditions kind of produced the need for at least consideration of this type of ordinance. But A and B, whether it was consistent with the intent and purpose of the regulations, there was just a number of issues that were brought up for the Planning Commission that they said that doesn't meet that situation. Then based on they had the hearing, and then they had a recommendation, and then The planning commission unanimously approved the recommendation the recommendation is that the city commission not approve the ordinance 1814, for the use table. The use table is the multicolored matrix that provides whether it's a permitted use or a conditional use for all the list of uses, for all the uses within residential zones, within commercial zones, within industrial zones, and says whether it's permitted or conditional. The proposed change in ordinance 1814 would add the letter C, a conditional use, to the 2 residential zoning districts for RV parks. That's for the use table, and that's the first ordinance on your list. The second ordinance on your list is the use standards, which includes amending the text for the use standards, and that section 502 basically has a list of criteria reference different uses. And the one that's specific to RV parks is subsection T, as in Thomas. And there's 16 different criteria within that subsection T on section 502 under the use standards of what RV parks are supposed to meet before they operate. And one of the things that was given to the planning commission as direction from the city commission is they wanted it to be considered for RV parks as a conditional use in residential zones, but they didn't want any additional reduced requirements or additional requirements, basically, for RV parks in residential zones compared to what has to occur in commercial zones. They didn't want any less, what came from the city commission, no less criteria. So when they considered those 16 criteria, which is listed and it's included in your packet for the subsection T, to the criteria to allow an RV park, there was several items, and you had asked the planning commission to include details of why they would recommend or not recommend to approve or recommend to not approve the ordinance. And the planning commission went through that. They basically identified 8 of the 16 criteria as issues or problematic in a residential zone. And those items vary from the size, because the size requirements is 2 acres. And that's pretty simple. We do not have very many lots within the city of Goodland, residential lots that are 2 acres. Now there has been various requests to have RV parks on commercial lots less than 2 acres, but most of that has been some like 1.7 acres for the lot behind Dollar General, and the other one was very similar sized. So it wasn't that much reduction from the 2 acres. That's an example. I also provided examples on the other items, the 8 criteria that was seen as issues. It also varies regarding the size requirements was another one that was a major issue, and that was to the setbacks, having 30 feet from any property line to locate the RV can be an issue. Doesn't mean it's going to be an issue for every RV or residential lot, but it could be an issue. And then there was the utilities. It got to be an issue. And I'm going through all this because you wanted the reasons why, and it's not really regarding the first one, regarding the matrix, it's overall. And there's those 8 different items. And those were included in your packet, and I won't go through every single one, but they were 8 of them were seen as pretty much an issue for any RV park or any residential lot that would be considered for an RV park. There was special considerations for the electric and for the sewer for each of those lots that could cause other problems for either the neighbors or for the lot itself. And then there was 4 additional that sometimes could be an issue or sometimes not could be an issue. And those are listed in your packet as well on your CCCF. So when the Planning Commission considered it, they saw 12 of the 16 criteria could be a difficult issue. And that was the reason why they unanimously approved, and it was pretty much comments from all members of the Planning Commission involved with it, to recommend to not approve this. Part of the discussion was also that the pressure's been let up a little bit. There are lots available at the current commercial lots. You know, and they don't see, we've added 3 other places now in the commercial districts, and there's additional land in the commercial district. And I'm just relaying it as far as the information that's being presented. So that is what the Planning Commission wanted to present. What's the option now for the City Commission? I can go through that if you want to, Mayor. I don't know if there's anyone in any other comments regarding or any questions what's been presented so far.
You have any questions for the city manager? Excuse me, on the information that he's provided?
I was gonna ask if we've kind of weathered the storm of the people coming in, but you kind of answered that there at the end. So, as a community, we kind of handled it, I guess, better than we thought we were going to need to. You know what I mean?
I don't think there's the pressure
Yeah.
right now. At the same time, doesn't mean that there couldn't be another wave of folks that are coming. But there doesn't seem to me to be as much of a pressing need as there was initially. That doesn't mean it's perfectly handled or there's living situations for every single person that's brought it. And they had some conversations with Jeremy, if I may say his name, who seems to be a conduit for people to try to find places to live, saying that he's had to fill 11 since the first of this month. There was a backing up, and now there's a little bit of some more people coming. But you also seem to, anecdotally, I don't have numbers, that there's different places for rent that haven't been available for rent for the last 3 months.
Thank you.
Certainly, I think one thing that needs to be said is, Matt, to your group, we certainly appreciate all the hoops that we had you jump through. I think sometimes the wheels of government don't move as fast as everybody necessarily would like, but there's a purpose behind the reason. Sometimes these things take a while, and I know that we asked probably more of the Planning Commission over this than we have in a lot of other instances over the past, at least since I've been involved in City Commission. So thank you for the efforts that you and your group put in making these recommendations. It takes a lot to be able to serve on those committees. You guys don't get compensated for that, and you have to put in the extra hours to, answer our questions for us, so we can make sure we give everybody an opportunity, a chance to make sure that their voices are heard through this process, because not one person speaks for everybody, but we have to give everybody a shot to say what they think and what they feel, and so we appreciate the work that you guys put in on the public hearing and then drafting this. So thank you for that.
So if we were to reject this and move on, nothing would change, basically.
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood that.
And does that also include residential areas that have RVs today that have filled the need?
They would have to follow the code. Right now, we are not enforcing that section of the code for a couple different, or one place I know of. There's been reports of another one or two, but yes, they would have to follow the code from this point forward. Unless you would give staff other direction, but that would not be, I'm sure that would have to have a discussion about that.
We have any other comments, questions, or concerns about the proposed ordinance 1814?
Now, what the code says, and that's what at the bottom of it, it has a summary, is you could adopt such recommendation by ordinance, which is basically a recommendation to not approve. So have a motion to not approve it following the recommendation. You could override the planning commission's recommendation by a 2/3 vote. So that would mean at least 4, not just 3, would have to vote in favor of the motion. Or you could return the recommendation to the planning commission with a statement specifying, why you don't want to approve it or disapprove, and then the planning commission, there can be a mechanism to send it back, and then it goes, and then you could have the planning commission could have a second opportunity to say something, and then you guys would have the opportunity to just pass it with a regular vote. That seemed like a stretch, unless you guys really wanted to go through that. I think there's been hopefully enough discussion on this topic at this point.
Well, I certainly think that we have asked and been answered several times from the planning commission. I don't feel like there's any need to send it back for any more comments from them. I would say this too, that when we make the appointments to the planning commission, we do that because that's a job that we don't necessarily want to do and we don't have time to do. And if we're going to entrust them with the ability to talk and have public discussion and make those decisions, I think that most of the time we probably need to follow their recommendation. Otherwise, we're going to be doing that job. So they are staffed with people who understand building codes and regulations. They make those decisions based on the best educated guess that they are, not guess, but best educated information that they've got. And I would be inclined to go with what their recommendation is, which is not to approve ordinance 1814.
With the 2 or 3 people around town that have 2 or 3 campers on their property, is there any way that we could, I don't want to say this, until those campers leave, they can stay there? Code.
Are they gonna be charged any back, like fines or anything like that?
Not at this point.
Okay.
But from this time forward, if we give them a deadline saying this needs to be taken care of, or you need to request a variance and do it forthwith, I think we've been more than lenient regarding their situations. It's more of, we need to follow what the code says, and if they wanted to have a variance or seek a variance, that's fine. They may have good ideas, and I know at least one has done some things to try to meet these criteria. Now, whether they've met all the criteria, that would have to have additional inspection and additional explanation of what's actually occurred.
I think the one nice thing about living in a community like this and working with the people that I know that we have working for us, we make these decisions, I have no doubt that there's not gonna be somebody that's gonna run out tomorrow and say, this all has to be gone in 2 hours. Like, I feel comfortable in saying that, you know, we work with decent, reasonable people. But I would say this, you know, every day that we say that, yes, there's a law or an ordinance on the books and we're not gonna enforce it, is a day longer that we create, an opportunity for, you know, people to say, well, you're letting them get away with it, well, why aren't you gonna let me do it now? And I think that, again, you know, we talked about this several meetings ago, but I think that puts our officials that are in those positions in a really bad spot, and we do that to them, and I don't think that's fair. So, you know, I think if we choose not to approve this ordinance, I have no doubt that the adults in the room will make a good decision to work with those people that are in violation, and they'll get that taken care of at a timely manner, and it's not going to be anything that we need to say or should say, you know, you're going to have X amount of days or whatever. To me, I feel like that puts them in a bad position.
And to confirm, a residential lot can request a variance on this to put an RV on their lot, or is that not even an option?
I don't have an answer specifically to that right there. I'd have to look in the code, but for the general sense, you seek a variance when you are not compliant with the code, or you're asking for essentially an exception, right?
So they could bring it forward and,
Don't have an answer specifically to that, right?
Yeah.
But I'd have to look that up as far as if there's a limitation, whether or not a residential property would do that. I don't think there are specific, you can seek a variance if you're commercial, but you cannot seek a variance if you are residential. I don't believe that is the case, but I can't tell you that definitively because I can't say that I have memorized all that.
no, it's fine, okay. I'm just making sure, cause I'm sure those are the questions that these folks are gonna have.
From a very general sense, that's what what a variance is for. Is
Okay.
if you're trying to do something or you determine something is not compliant with the code, but it's whatever, then you can seek a variance.
Okay,
In a
Thank
very general sense.
okay.
The one thing I would say to that is, it might not be.
Yeah.
Because if it's not allowed, and it's not a matter of like how many feet or, and Jake and I would have to discuss this, that's why
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
an absolute answer. But it's not like I could set up a liquor store at my house, and seek a variance to do that. Just to try to take it out of the realm of, okay, what type of commercial business should I be allowed to do at my residential lot? That's what it's basically asking about, and that's where it gets a little, is it allowed, but it's, some of the conditions are, I need a variance from, versus the actual use. And that's why the uses get to be awful particular. Because some people, you know, people don't want certain uses showing up at my next door neighbors. So,
Well, I agree that I think we would be good to follow the planning commission's recommendation to not move forward with this.
If that's the will of the commission, then I would entertain a motion. Hearing none, I'll make a motion to not approve ordinance 1814.
A second.
I have a motion by myself, a second by Commissioner Artzer. Mary, roll please.
Yes.
No. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. We'll move on to ordinance 1850. Okay.
Was your motion to not approve?
That's correct.
Okay,
You should let it
all right.
Is not in favor
Got
of the
it.
ordinance. Do I
Okay.
need to reword that?
Well,
Shouldn't have a negative motion.
I mean, ultimately, that's right. I mean, so, I guess I'll put it this way. Your proposal, or basically ordinance 1814 dies. Okay? So, although you held a formal motion and voted on that, but technically you're voting not to do something, does that make sense?
Yep.
So you really don't do that. So unless somebody was willing to bring it up to say, okay, well, I go ahead and move that we approve this, somebody seconds it, then you'd call the roll, and if there's all no's, then it dies. Does that make sense?
Gotcha.
Yeah, so you're good. So you, basically, if you wish to, you could go back, correct the vote, and just,
Re-clarify.
yeah, just have a motion to approve this. Somebody can second it, doesn't mean you have to vote for it. Or, if somebody brings up a motion and there is no second, then it dies on the floor.
Okay. So are you want us to go ahead and clarify that?
I think you would, it's just helpful for your minutes.
Okay.
And Mary?
So I would entertain a motion to approve ordinance 1814.
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Howard. Do I have a second? Okay, a motion does not pass. Move on to item B, ordinance 1815. And before we move on to that, Mary, is that clear enough for the minutes there for you? Okay. Okay. Move on to ordinance 1815, the text amendment sections for 19502 TU standards, RV parks, and residential zoning districts. So I think we've covered all that in the last several conversations. Is there anything else you want to clarify under that? Okay.
No,
I
same
would-
same thing for this one.
Okay, I would entertain an ordinance to approve, entertain a motion to approve ordinance 1815.
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Howard. Do I have a second? Okay, motion dies. We'll move on to ordinance C, or item C, ordinance 1816, amending sections 9-111 to amend use of RV parks in residential districts. Anything else you want to further clarify on that one?
This was just one other section in the code. It didn't require, it was not part of the zoning ordinance or the subdivision ordinance, so it didn't need to go to the planning commission. But it was just one in another area in the code that actually prohibited RV parks in residential zones.
Okay, do we have any questions, comments, or concerns about ordinance 1816? So just so we're clear, this is an ordinance that, right now, the advice of the planning commission, there's no advice of the planning
There's
commission.
no advice, and it really doesn't have any effect, really, because it doesn't match what the zoning ordinance says currently.
Okay,
It was just trying to match, if there was gonna be a change in the two zoning ordinances, this also needed to change, so there's really no even.
that felt a little confusing off the bat, so
Yeah.
thank you for clarifying that. All right, so we would entertain a motion to approve ordinance 1816. Hearing no motion, the motion dies. We'll move on to formal actions. Item A is the annual airport CIP planning documents.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Evening.
For you I know, for you I haven't met yet, I'm Darren Neufeld, EVH Engineering. I handle all of our airport work. Was a resident here a number of years ago. But, so tonight I've actually got two action items kind of under A. There's the annual airport CIP planning. I'm going to go over a quick review of what all that entails. Also, that we're requesting that the commission give us approval to submit a KDOT aviation grant for one of these projects on this list that I'll talk about. So it's kind of a twofold thing under item A. So a 5-year planning grant, every year we have to come back and do a 5-year planning for the airport for the projects, and we meet with the airport board. They recommend projects to you guys. This year, the first project on the list that they've put as their #1 ranking is actually to replace fuel tanks. Currently we have 2 underground fuel tanks, one for Jet A and one for 100 low lead avgas. And both those tanks have been in there a long time and just are probably in need of some upgrade, and there's availability to use federal money to do this. So we put this as our #1 project on the list. Now, the airport board still sees our number 2, 3, 4 projects as the higher priority, and that is the design and then the construction of a runway extension, and that's to add 1,300 feet to our runway. We have the land to do that. The problem is we have an ILS system, and that's the number 2 project, or 3 project on this list. The trouble is that has to go through a different department at the FAA called Tech Ops, Technical Operations. And Technical Operations has come back and they're very understaffed right now and very underfunded, and have said at best case, they would review this for even inclusion in some future year project 5 years from now. So we don't want to wait to expend this other money waiting 5 years. So what we've decided is, yes, we want to keep those projects on the list to keep it in front of the FAA, but at the same time, we don't want to lose any of our other money, so we're going to go ahead and program some other projects in between. That's why the top one on the list, to replace fuel tanks, and the very bottom one on the list, which is construct a taxiway for a new hangar area, are really the 2 projects that are kind of the ones that we're really focused on right now, until such point in time we can get movement on that extension. So, the replaced fuel tanks, like I said, it's going to replace those 2 fuel tanks. We'll go with above ground. The discussions have been, right now, all of our fueling systems at the airport have to be handled by truck. Call it, fill a truck up, go out and fill the aircraft. We're talking about, when we replace these to above ground fuel tanks, actually putting a self-service station in, so 24-hour credit card type system for the avgas, the 100 low lead. They want to keep the Jet A on the trucks. So basically, that way, anytime, 24 hours a day, if somebody needs the 100 low lead in a smaller aircraft, they can fuel up on their own. Where that's going to be, how we're going to make that fit, undecided right now, because this project would still be at least a year out. So falling back a little bit to cover how your money works. Basically, by keeping this list with at least $1.5 million worth of projects, you are eligible to receive $150,000 per year from the FAA. Now you can bank that for up to 4 years. So you can have a $600,000 bank, and then you can use that as a project, and that'd be 90% of a project. So we can actually do a $666,000 project. The city pays $66,000, and you use this FAA $600,000 to do that size of project. If we ever get to a project like some of the other ones on this list that are over that $600,000, you're going to be competing against all the airports in the 4 states of the central region, which are Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, and Kansas. They have a discretionary pot, and it's like $30 million for these 4 states, and so you're competing against all the airports in those states for anything above your $600,000. So those are the ones that we usually have to try to plan out 2, 3, 4 years, which in the case of the extension, that's why we need to keep planning it, but yet it's not going to happen right away. So right now, you're going to have your full bank for this year, but we were only programming that first project at $362,000. They always use the oldest money in your bank, so you're not in jeopardy of losing it. So one of the projects we did a couple years ago was we bought all the snow removal equipment. So far, it only have one small little glitch in one of the pieces, and we're getting it ironed out with the supplier. But this year's project is to actually build, and we're already starting design, which is the next item on the list tonight, to build a building for that snow removal equipment, so we can move the loader out of the fire department out there on site. So we're actually, to buy the snow equipment, that was about $1 million type project to buy all those pieces. We actually had some special money that was 6-year money from the government, and that's why we didn't have to go for discretionary funds on all that. So if you see those older bills being $1 million, we didn't have to try to get more because we had BIL money sitting there in conjunction with our normal $150,000. Starting with this year's funding, though, that bill money's gone now. I mean, it's still here right now, but in this future year planning, it's gone. So we're back to $150,000 a year. So just so when we come to new future years, we're going to be back to the $150,000 planning level, or seeking the discretionary funds. So the other thing I brought up about KDOT Aviation, one of the things we'd like to do is take this fuel tank project and actually apply for a KDOT Aviation grant. It's funded at the same 90-10% split. And it's a project that here in the last couple of years, KDOT has funded a lot of fuel projects across the state. So it fits into what they're doing right now very well. The plus to that is if we get a KDOT aviation grant, they'd award it sometime this summer. So we could actually look at doing that project either in the fall or, depending on your local budget, push it into your 2027 budget locally. Because if we wait for this money, it's going to be like 2028 before we can replace the tanks. So it'd get us a year sooner on replacing the tanks, and it'd let more money be built up in your budget or the bank, so we could actually move that other taxiway project up higher a year from now. So there's a plus to going after KDOT money. But if we don't get it, well, you just fall back to this. So I'm kind of asking for two things here tonight. Is one, to accept the annual 5-year planning with this list of projects, which is what the airport board recommended, and they also recommended to go ahead and applying for a KDOT aviation grant for the fuel tanks. And that KDOT application, the reason I'm asking for it tonight is because it's due by the end of this month. It's due by the 31st of January.
I'm curious, why is the ILS always such an issue? I feel like we've been messing with this for 5 years.
25 years.
Okay.
That's
So
when I
longer than
started
I've been
working on
around
this airport.
on the commission, for sure.
So way back when the ILS was put in here, Goodland was very fortunate to get it because it provided a precision instrument approach into this airport that, other than Hayes, nowhere else in this part of the state had. Garden City, Dodge City, Hayes, Goodland. That was it. Over time, GPS has come along, so we have RNAV approaches which use GPS. A lot of the pilots can use that and be just almost as good as precision ILS. So there's a real quandary out there within the FAA and the tech ops world of how long ILS is really still going to be out there at a non-commercial service airport. Eventually, there's two schools of thought up in the tech ops world. One is that says, hey, if you're not doing commercial service, you're not going to get all this equipment in the future. But they haven't formally ever done that, so the ILS is going to be here until it either is no longer fixable, repairable on a year-to-year basis, or they decide to not have them anymore and they take it out. The problem with that ILS is if we extend the runway, we have to move it. As we found out with the PAPI, that ILS system is antiquated. It does not meet current FAA standards. We found that out when we had to move the PAPI on the crosswind runway. We fought for 2 years with tech ops about the design of the move because they said, well, you got to move the old equipment, but yet you have to build the new stuff to fit the new equipment. But that new way of thinking and the new design wouldn't fit the old equipment. So how do you move old equipment? You say we have to move it, but it doesn't work. It's going to be the same thing with the ILS. If we decide to push this extension before we get any resolution from tech ops, number one, there's no guarantee they're going to put it back when we're done, and not sure the airport board has said not sure if we want to take that risk. Or number two, we try to design a move for it and it doesn't work. So,
Yikes.
so that's why it kind of is sitting in limbo.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think eventually, the last 4 to 5 years has been more this case where we're hearing more rumblings about eventually they're going to do away with the ILS systems at non-commercial airports. So when that day comes and this one is decommissioned, then we'd be free to have it removed and do the extension, and we won't be faced with that.
So this could get kicked far enough down the road that we may never have to mess with it anymore.
You're right. But we're going to constantly keep it on our list because we are entitled to extra runway length and can get it paid for. So, and it'd be nice to have another 1,300 feet here. So,
What is our FAA budget? Like, what do we have in the budget for it? I don't remember.
no, on the local side, how much do you
Oh.
budget every year?
400,000, because I have to budget that, it's a levy fund, I have to budget it to 0, and it's about 400,000. But keep in mind, that still has our 10% runway, 523 overload.
It's still got past projects on it, so
Okay.
it's not like.
Yeah.
How much new though, when we were back in our normal cycles before all these projects went wonky on us, how much were you putting in the budget every year though? Added to the budget.
How much
every
did
year?
we add?
About 100,000, wasn't it?
Yeah,
150?
it was probably 2 or 3 meals, and see, now we're doing good. I think we did 10,000 for 26, $10,000, so it wasn't even, it's a quarter of a meal.
Okay. Thank you.
We try to do everything we can we try to do everything we can to maximize the federal money use
Yeah.
without pulling a huge increase on the local. So, I mean, that's our goal every year when we meet with the airport board and staff, is to kind of align those two things as best we can with project.
Well, we appreciate that.
We try. I'm not saying we're always successful, but we try. There's also some years when instead of 90-10, all of a sudden the FAA will fund it at 95-5. And it's not the FAA doing that, it's actually Congress. They'll sneak something in a bill that all of a sudden funds that year's worth of airport money at 95-5.
Just like they did 100% for
Yeah, they were,
a
during the
couple
BIL
years.
years, they did 100% for a couple years, and we didn't have to throw in any local match.
But that's just nice. That's
Yeah.
not.
That's not expected.
Not norm. Yeah, you can't plan on that, so.
And is there a cost with the grant, the KDOT grant? Like, is there an application fee or
No.
anything for that?
We,
Okay.
we do the application, it's, for us, it's an online application, we do it for the city for no charge.
Okay.
It's not that extensive of an application, it's really just turning in everything we actually already do for the FAA planning,
Okay.
and we're just converting it into an online application for KDOT. So, no cost.
Thank you.
Any questions for Darren? If not, I'd make a motion to approve the annual 5-year plan for the FAA.
Second.
I have a motion by myself, second by Commissioner Howard. Mary, roll please.
Redlin,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Cloyd,
Yes.
Arthur,
Yes.
Showalter.
Yes. Thank you. I would then entertain a motion to allow EBH to apply for the KDOT grant on our behalf.
So moved.
Second it.
I have a motion by myself and a second by Commissioner Cloyd. Mary, roll please.
Cloyd,
Yes.
Arthur,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Redlin,
Yes.
Showalter.
Yes. All right.
Okay, my next item then is the snow removal equipment building, which is this year's grant. We received the go letter back in October. We've already started working on the design with staff to make sure we got it the size and the door widths and the heights and everything to make the equipment usable and functional. Basically, roughly right now, we're looking at an approximately a 60 by 40 building with either 1 or 2 doors that we're still playing around with that inside configuration where the loader and all 3 pieces of equipment will be able to fit in there. Also, if they need to here during the wintertime, they could pre-stage like maybe even a road grader out there or a smaller loader if we needed to. It'll have insulation and minimal heat. You know, we're not going to heat it down to or up to 70 degrees, but we're going to keep it so it doesn't freeze in there, so we can keep water in there. And it'll have a small mechanical room because we need to be able to, when they go to change equipment, if they change from the broom to the blower or to the plow, a lot of times they'll have ice on the fittings, so they need some water, heated water, to be able to get the fittings loosened up to be able to change equipment. So it'll have water in it, but we're not putting like restrooms or anything like that in it. So just very minimal. Right now we're looking at locating it right next to the fire department because that's the best place back in the hangar area where it's not ever going to be usable for a hangar space, and it'll fit nice right there. So, and we have sewer right next to it for the traps in the building.
Are you looking at, sorry,
No, it's okay.
are you looking at concreting for the pad
The,
or?
the floor itself will be concreted, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We're probably, actually, we're thinking about maybe, yeah, right where Zero's at on the screen there is kind of the location, yeah. We're thinking about maybe putting an alternate bit in for floor heat, hot water, hydronic floor heat. Just for that same reason, maybe we wouldn't have to heat the air temperature up, but it'd keep it warm enough in there without having to extra tube heating.
Yep.
So we're thinking about that as an alternate bid, just to see where it comes in at. Especially since we already have to have a hot water heater out there, we could have a boiler tank set up to run the hydronic heat.
Yeah.
So, just some options we'll be building in the design. We have to have this thing bid out and the grant application turned back into the feds by May 1st. So here in the next couple months, I'll be back to open that bid, but we're working with staff to make sure it's functionally going to work for them. That's been the big key, is they want to build something they can't use right for that equipment. So. So what I've got in front of you tonight is just the approval of our design contract for this project.
Okay. We have any questions, comments, or concerns for Darren under the item B for the design contract for the SRE building?
I'll make a motion to approve the design contract for the SRE building for EBH.
Second?
I have a motion by Commissioner Redland, second by Commissioner Artser. Mary?
Clayton,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Redland,
Yes.
Archer,
Yes.
Showalter.
Yes.
Well, that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Darren.
it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll be back as soon as we have a bid ready.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Move on to item C, the cooperative agreement with Kyle Railroad to submit the build grant application.
Mayor, members of the commission, this was discussed at last meeting, or the request, and there was a presentation by Kyle Railroad, Genesee and Wyoming Railroad, to have Goodland be the local government applicant on behalf of Kyle Railroad, and then work with Kyle Railroad if the grant is awarded to do the financial things necessary regarding the grant. Then the monies get awarded to Goodland, and then it's a pass through to Kyle Railroad. The agreement was reviewed by City Attorney Clay, and had no objections to it, and it's presented for your consideration. And basically just this commitment letter is what they provided.
Okay. Thank you, Kent. We have questions, comments, or concerns about the cooperative bid agreement with Kyle Railroad?
Why Goodland? Like, why do they want Goodland to be their grant person, or their grant community?
We are on the railroad.
Yeah.
And they didn't have, and I did not ever ask, if they had asked other communities
Okay.
before ours.
So it's not like we're like the last of 7 communities, and they all said no, and we're the last ones.
No.
Okay.
Point of interest, John Golden was the original president of Kyle,
Hmm.
and all the documents from the state's Port Authority are in the telephone building here in Midland.
Hmm.
So the founding of the rail and documents are housed on the 3rd floor of the telephone building.
Thank you.
Sounds like a good reason for us to host the grant here.
I'll make a motion to approve the cooperative agreement with the Kyle Railroad to submit a build grant application.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Redland, second by Commissioner Howard. Mary, roll.
I'm getting there. Archer,
Yes.
Redland,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Cloyd,
Yes.
Showalter.
Yes. Move on to item D, the master service agreements with KMEA Mid-States.
Mayor, members of the commission, this is a master service agreement with KMEA Mid-States for engineering, procurement, and construction services. One of the things that we were asked for was a preliminary engineering plan as part of our application to the Economic Development Administration in order to apply for a grant for the electrical or extension of electrical services to the industrial park. When started to talk with KMEA and specifically Mid-States Engineering, who handles our electrical engineering needs, even though we just spoke with an engineering, that's airport and civil engineering. Now we're talking with a different set of engineers. They regularly have this master service agreement to cover a number of different situations regarding providing engineering plans and specifications, and also procurement and construction services. So it basically sets up the standard charging that they will have in order to provide those services. Did have Dustin Bador, the Director of Public Power, to review this information. I don't know if he has anything additional to provide. He did say that it looked good to him beforehand, and I don't think he has anything additional. So this is basically just the background agreement in order to move forward. And then it basically works on task orders, and they'll provide the actual task order for the actual amount for providing this specific information. They actually have provided some initial information already. I said, we need to go ahead and approve this master service agreement, but they said because of the timing, they would start doing some work for us beforehand, and they've already provided some information, so. This is a good option for the city, and just staff presents it to you as recommending approval.
We certainly just see this as another step in the direction that we're headed, which is to try to do what we need to do to make sure there's continued economic development in our community, especially in the industrial park.
I move that we approve the master agreement with KMEA Mid-States.
I second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Howard, second by Commissioner Cloyd. Mary, roll please.
Howard,
Yes.
Redland,
Yes.
Cloyd,
Yes.
Archer,
Yes.
Showalter.
Yes. Thank you. Move on to item E, contract for the municipal judge.
Mayor, members of the commission, we have had a person employed as municipal judge and municipal court clerk for a number of years, decades. That person is now retired as an employee. This contract is presented to you to have that person, Leanne Taylor, serve as municipal judge under a contractual basis. And this is the contract that is presented for your consideration.
So this would be for like half of those two roles that were split up?
Yes.
Okay.
Have any other questions, comments, or concerns about the municipal contract, or the contract for the municipal court judge?
Do we have anyone interested in the second half of the duties?
Yes, we have an employee that is currently
Okay.
doing those duties.
Okay.
This is not necessarily related to this whole contract, but I think at some point we need to recognize Leanne for her service to the community, so we need to make some kind of effort to get her.
Sure.
I know she hasn't completely retired yet, but she's served the citizens of Goodland for a very long time.
Well, in the eyes of Capers, she has fully retired, but now it'll be a contractual basis.
Well, I would make a motion to approve the contract for the municipal court judge.
Second.
I have a motion by myself, second by Commissioner Redland. Mary, roll, please.
Archer,
Yes.
Redland,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Cloyd,
Yes.
Showalter.
Yes. Thank you. Move on to item F, industrial park lots 1, 2, 7, 8 in block 3 purchase agreement.
And purchase agreement, this was part of the incentive to have them locate here, was there was an initial discussion regarding they needed the additional lots, which is in the center of the big circle of streets now and out in the industrial park. All of those streets have been improved to be a concrete street. The big rectangle, and it's not really a circle. The group the development group that is looking to build a grain mill and bakery in the industrial park currently owns the lots, basically the 4 lots on the east side, where his cursor is now, and basically from the red line that splits that in half from that way to the right is the 4 lots they currently own. The 4 lots, originally we had talked about the 2 lots next to the red line, which are lots 2 and 7. they needed to build over the line, where the red line is, 120 feet into those lots in order to build the actual plant. Now they're looking at additional warehousing that they're gonna have to build, or would like to build, in addition to the plant itself. And that's why they are requesting to work out an agreement to purchase or acquire the lots 1, 2, 7, and 8. So that's basically all four, the other 4 lots, which would make 8 total within the big rectangle.
So they would have basically the whole inside.
Yes.
Yeah.
I assume that, I mean, we don't have a contract to look at yet, but you're seeking our approval to put one together
Yes.
for the transfer.
Yes.
So I would ask my standard question, I guess, when we talk about transferring property, is are we gonna have something within that contract that allows that to revert back to us if nothing is done with it or the project falls through? Cause I assume we're, looking at, gifting that
Yes.
property then, right?
Yes. And yes, that was part of the discussion. The one thing that, we're gonna ask the, development group to undertake, and that it's also partially on their side, the engineering and architectural folks that are developing the plans. There is on the original plat, and I didn't bring it up from my office, through the middle of that, when it was originally platted, is a 20-foot railroad right-of-way, which was part of the original plat. When there was a thought at one time that there could be a either rail spur or something else through the middle. Well, the plant, as Amy's designed currently, and you saw that originally when it was going over the middle where the red line is at, that railroad right-of-way is no longer going to be applicable. It doesn't apply. So it needs to be removed. They are also, as far as building the plant, what we're going to work with them on is to go ahead and merge all the lots together. So it's one parcel. And that way they don't have to deal with setbacks on those internal property lines. That will be a process. There'll be an application to have a plat amendment at the, that'll go through the planning commission, or an entire replat, which will involve a decision by both planning commission and city commission to do. They'll be doing that over the next short time period so that they can have that finished before they complete the plans and send it out to bid. So that would be the one qualifier, that once those lots are merged, then there's really no returning the property to the city.
Okay.
But that's more because of other things that come about. And if they go ahead with the process to merge and plat and everything else, that it gives one more indication that this is proceeding to what our expectations are, that they're actually able to build the plant and start operating. Get it opened up and start operating.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or concerns about this request? If not, I'd make a motion to approve the purchase agreement for the industrial park, lots 1, 2, 7, and 8, and block 3
Second.
to the Golden Wade's Grain. A motion by myself, second by Commissioner Redland. Mary, roll.
Howard,
Yes.
Floyd,
Yes.
Archer,
Can I ask a clarifying question? Will we do another motion when the contract is in front of us? Or is this
For the
him?
actual document.
this is just to get,
Just
allow
for
him to
staff
get it,
move on?
yeah.
Okay, yes.
Who did I not say
Threw off
right?
Mary's train of thought.
Sorry.
You
I haven't
did.
voted
I
yet.
have my certain,
Sorry.
is it Cloyd or is it Howard?
I said yes.
I was gonna say, I thought I said her.
I was the first one.
Okay, so let's do this again.
Let's
Howard,
vote again.
Sorry.
Yes.
Artser,
Yes.
Cloyd,
Yes.
Redlin,
Yes.
Showalter.
Yes. We are professional politicians up here. Don't anybody tell you otherwise.
Thrown me off.
That's
I'm just saying.
All right. Let's move on to the discussion items to a real professional politician. I want to hear about the transfer of property to USD 352.
So as most of you know, we're gearing up to put the new Career Tech Ed building across from the high school. We had talked about how we own a house there that we've been using for years to kind of as an incentive to a new employee, kind of a recruitment tool. During all the communications with the public during the bond election, we talked about we were going to demo that house or we would move it potentially. I think we're gravitating towards a board. If the option is to move it, we'd rather do that and keep the retention kind of opportunity recruitment tool for our teachers. We can't buy a similar house for the same value that it currently has to us, so we want to move it off. We don't really want to fill the landfill with a good house. So I approached Kent about, did the city have any vacant lots, as you guys have demoed houses and done things and land bank and have a piece of property that we could look to purchase, the deed, whatever we want to do, so we could, that still has utilities, hookups and everything in place and ready to go for just a house to fill an open lot. So we talked about that before Christmas, and he said there was a lot. The one he would propose would be, I don't know if I have the address right, 324 Broadway, is that right, Kent?
321.
321 Broadway.
321.
So it's a little bit further maybe than I'd wanted, but at the same time, that doesn't really matter. It's a good lot. And so at that time, I think this is a lot you had purchased off of a sheriff's sale or something that you guys own. You don't have plans for, so it kind of made sense that if we could move it there, we'd like to do that. And I think you had some title work. Kent's probably informed you of these things. We might incur the cost of retitling it or whatever it comes to. So obviously I had a board turnover too at the first of the year, so we just had a brief discussion about that at our first board meeting in January. But at the same time, we need to kind of get going if that's what we're going to do. So I'd like to take it to them Monday night. If I can't, I told them too, I was looking at other lot opportunities around town, but if this was the best one, then we'd want to move on it Monday night. So I don't know what questions or thoughts you guys would have of me at this time. Trevor Linton, our new board president's here as well. He probably knows more than I do going on. So anyway, that's what we're proposing.
The quit claim went through, right? Like that's done?
It is completed and got the deed in December.
Do we have any lots approximately that size other than that one that might fit their needs, or is that the only one that would be about that size that would fit a residence like that?
In a residential zone, this is the last lot.
Well, I certainly feel like strong schools equal strong community, and if there's something we can do to partner with the USD to help them recruit, then I think we need to do it, but that might just be me.
Nope, I'm of the same mindset.
And it makes sense not to destroy or tear down a good house, especially to help the teachers coming into the community.
It's going to cost us probably around a $50,000 mark to do it all anyway. But like I said, we can't build that or buy that same house in town. It'd probably cost us $15,000 or so to demo it and have the landfill fee. So that's kind of why we're looking at doing it too. Trevor, do you want to add anything? Okay.
We would ask that you add something. Well, I think it's certainly the opinion of the commission that we'd love to partner with you on that, and if we can get something done, then we'll be happy to support that.
Agreed.
Okay. I don't have any other questions, so let's get you a lot if you need it.
Okay. Ken, is that all you needed?
Yeah, basically, what we had talked about is what the purchase price that the city had for the lot, and plus all the costs dealing with the quitclaim. It was, there's a couple additional publication costs, but then it was like, it was $500 to purchase the lot, and it was $3,000 and something to do the quitclaim. And a couple other publications.
All of the fees that the city has incurred for this property would then be covered by,
Yes.
That's
The
the proposal,
the
that
school
we'll
district.
pay for those fees to get the lot.
So what account would these funds go back into? I know that doesn't really matter, but
It would repay where we've spent that out of.
okay.
Well, it can't because it's a previous year, but what I would
Oh.
recommend is that you put it either in your general fund or that you put it in your reserves under his nuisance properties.
Okay.
Cause you're putting money away for demo on the commercial building. To put
Okay.
it there is where I would recommend, because that's basically,
I agree.
it was a
prob-
nuisance property.
That's where it would be best used, I would say. Okay.
Sounds good, like a good idea for a board retreat.
Well, unless you need an official motion from us, I just say work with the school district and
Okay.
let's come up with what makes sense.
Will do.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to reports. Kent, we'd love to hear some more from you. What do you got for a city manager's report?
Hopefully I can pass this on as quickly as possible. Included in your package is the manager memo, as well as the month-end fund balance report for December, as well as the fourth quarter financial statement, which will also be published in the paper, if it hasn't already. There's also the police monthly activity report for December. Do have an update on the MIH application. Well, actually, not much of an update. Connor Hampton called him, and he was expecting the same type of thing when I called him, as far as some sort of update from Kansas. I forget whether it's Department of Commerce or Housing Resources Corporation, which one is handling the MIH application. But he had contacted them, and they said they were going to be making announcements in 2 weeks. So apparently next week, the last week of January, there will be an announcement regarding the MIH, his grant application for the 5 duplexes on the lots north of Topside Manor that he had put in. So we'll see if that is successful. And then I was going to ask building official Hildebrand to give an update on various properties.
Good evening.
Just wanted to give an update on 404 Harrison. That property is now cleaned and completely done and over with. And then 13 and 19 Cherry is also completely cleaned up and a bare lot once again. Those were the only two that you guys had on the chopping block at the moment, other than the 621 West 17th Street, which we have agreed to do the 60-day extension on. And then there's another one that'll be coming to you guys next week as well for a yard cleanup, so.
Are you making progress on that one that we're working with the owners?
Yes. They've actually taken a few loads to the dump. If you've driven by and looked at the yard, it's cleaned up a lot since the last meeting, so. That is all I have.
Scroll your work, Zach.
Thanks.
Okay.
Couple other minor things before we get to the Jake Kling, City Attorney, providing Open Meetings Act information. I was just checking, which was included in your last packet. I expected it to be included in this packet as well, and I noticed that it wasn't, so I apologize that it wasn't included for a second time, but it's the same information that was in the last packet. We've had a couple incidents. We have, and I didn't get a chance to check with Neil, but we ended up with a fire hydrant run over. Were you able to get that all connected back together today or no? It's going to be another day's work at least. out at Troy Industries out at Highway 24, and they're actually shut down basically from the church that's on Highway 24 there. There's no water to the businesses because there was so much damage from the fire hydrant that was hit by a semi. So I didn't get a chance to talk with Neil. I don't know if you have any additional information on where that reconstruction is at this point.
We're putting everything back together to get it reset, hopefully tomorrow. We had a sewer tap pop up late this afternoon, so we had to pull off of that, get sewer tap done. So we'll be back on that project first thing in the morning.
Okay. But they should have water by end of tomorrow or maybe Thursday.
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay. So we have had that situation. We also had some damage out at the ball field complex. We're taking additional measures regarding that. We've had damage to a number of the doors. Nothing taken.
You're talking vandalism?
Like what type?
Yep.
What type of damage?
Danny, you want to provide an update regarding?
Over the weekend, we had, about 3 weeks ago, we had vandalism out there at the concession stand. And then this weekend, Tess was out there checking things and called me and the police, and so we've had vandalism again. This time they got 4 of the 5 doors. We can't find anything taken, but they pretty well destroyed all the locks and the doors, so Dustin's crew and I've been out there taking measures to shore things up out there, so make some changes, so. And we had a little bit of wind damage out there too, blew the roof off, part of the roof off the utility shed out there and a few shingles off the building, and we had a tree go down at Stever, so kind of working that in today too, so.
Too cold for vandalism.
Excuse me?
It's too cold for vandalism. They need to stay home.
Apparently not.
Apparently not. But other than that, we continued. We did have 2 officers graduate from the police academy on Friday, and they are continuing with their FTL, and they'll be on FTL for the next several weeks, so before they become employed. So, but that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Let's go ahead and do our commissioner reports, and then we'll go to the city attorney. So we'll start on my right. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
You can do your report.
Yeah, let's just get those out of the way. Commissioner Archer, go ahead.
First, I want to thank Kitten for our Christmas party we just had. It was very nice. It was a good job. All 3 of, okay, Kenton, Neil, and Danny. Thank you guys. It was very nice. And this is kind of a more serious note. I had a member of the community reach out to me regarding ICE and kind of if they've reached out to us as a community, what our plans are if they do come into the community to do their job. And I thought it was just worth starting the conversation on what that would look like as a community.
Are you looking at me?
I'm looking at Jason. I am looking at the police chief. And I think it's worth starting the conversation. It's not a secret the demographic that ICE is looking at right now, and that's a decent portion of our community. And I think everyone deserves to feel safe. So,
I guess specifically what are you asking?
Hi,
by the way.
Hi. The question of the community member is like if they were to come in and do their job and do a raid of sorts, like what would that look like as a community? Do we have any? I don't know. They were more just concerned. They were just nervous, is what I'll say.
That.
If I'm not notified of any information from ICE prior to them coming. I guess I don't know why they would be scared. the media is portraying very extreme measures right now. It's not always true. And some of them may be true, but I guess, yeah, I don't.
This isn't a political statement. This is a factual statement. We are guided by the laws of the state of Kansas. We are obligated to follow the laws that are enforced by the federal government. So, until such time as there is a requirement for us to enforce our Kansas laws, that will be done outside of the purview of the federal government. What that really means is, we can't just answer a blanket statement of, what are you going to do if ICE gets here?
Yeah.
The answer to that is, first and foremost, everybody here is a citizen, okay? Your police department are citizens. They have their jobs to fulfill the roles of law enforcement in enforcing our laws, okay? We cannot control what the federal government does, but if the federal government comes in and, let's say an individual commits a crime, they're no longer a federal agent. They are a person that committed a crime. Fair enough? So, that's not me skirting the issue, it's just we have to be very, very cautious how we're looking at this.
I agree, yeah.
And so, to the citizens, you need to know and understand there are differences and there are, how do I want to put this? Civics dictates by your constitutional rights who has enforcement powers and in what purview. So, a federal agency cannot come into the city of Goodland and just enact martial law, if you will, and just do whatever they want, right? We have laws for a reason. Our police department, though, local police department, is really supposed to be enforcing the laws of Goodland, which is our code, and the state of Kansas, okay? So that's my best answer to you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know it's not an easy question. I just,
Oh, I think it's a very easy question,
Yeah.
because if people actually stay in their lane
yeah,
and do what they're supposed to do by the law, we wouldn't have issues. I hate to sound that way, but adults need to start being adults. And I think there is a certain level of responsibility that people need to take on. And part of that is in an educational standpoint. But as far as my answer to that, our police department will enforce the laws of the state of Kansas and the city of Goodland. That's the best I can give you, because that is truly their job.
And the other part of it is just to be the roles and the routines that are filled. That when it comes to immigration or different types of things that are involved, that's not this local police department's authority or basis for doing anything. But if it comes up, and it has come up many times over the last decade, so as long, Jason told me earlier today, as long as he's worked, it's had different things where they end up having to contact the authority that's responsible for that, or it has something actually stated, a warrant that states this needs to be done. They take care of that. So that's just part of the normal everyday activities that people are not aware of. It's happened, it'll happen again, just because those are the roles. Different parts of the law enforcement universe get involved with.
Nothing has changed in 15 years.
yeah.
Absolutely nothing. It's just the media's hyper-focused on it right now, so.
Which is why I think this community member reached out.
Sure,
Just
and I understand their
Yeah.
fear and frustration, I do.
Yeah.
And, we have no authority as a police department to serve any type of federal detainers. So, none. So if I walk up to somebody and they have a federal detainer, I have no authority to arrest that person for anything. What comes into play is if we arrest somebody for a crime against the state of Kansas or the city of Goodland, and they have a federal detainer, we are obligated to contact ICE. At that point, they do what they need to do.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, thank
That
you.
was very well said.
Yes.
Thank you.
But it's a good question, and I'm glad that Jake said it, because part of the education is to have, okay, this is the question. These are the answers.
Mhm.
Yeah, really nothing has changed at all. It's just hyper-focused right now.
Yeah.
So we do business just like we always have.
Thank you.
Thank
That's
you,
all I
Chief.
have.
Okay.
I'm good, I'm done.
Commissioner Floyd, your report.
I don't have anything to bring up tonight.
Commissioner Redmond?
Whoa. I just wanted to say thank you for the Christmas party. It was a lot of fun.
Commissioner Howard?
Nothing at this time.
And for the mayor's report, I wanted to give a kudos to Kent for leading us through the last several months worth of discussions on the RV issues. I know that, you know, the tact in which you handled that was greatly appreciated by me, and I'm sure the rest of the commission. It was, we asked you to do a lot there too, so we appreciate your leadership there, Kent. And with that, I would turn it over to Jake. Finally.
All right. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
All right. So usually they put me under presentations, okay? But since they put me all the way at the end, I will tell you, unfortunately, it's at this hour. I'm going to try my best, but honestly, the next hour and a half should go by pretty quick, okay? It's a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke.
Motion to adjourn.
Filibuster. No. So what I'm here to talk to you guys about is called the Kansas Open Meetings Act, okay? So I always try to do this at least once a year, right? Just as a refresher for the existing commission, but obviously we always try to do it when there's new commissioners, right? Because a lot of times what I've found out is that a lot of times for you guys, this might be your very first public role as far as actually being an elected official, okay? So what I always want to make sure that we do, and it's a little bit self-serving, is tell you about the things that you have to follow and guide by, okay? Now, you have two different roles here. You've got your policy roles. That's the whole idea of passing ordinances and laws and all that other stuff. There is, though, then the legal realm, right? That doesn't tell you what you can or can't do from a policy standpoint per se, but it tells you as far as procedures, policies that you have to adhere to. As long as you follow the rules, we won't have a problem. Excuse me. So, my job as the city attorney is, one, not to tell you what to pass or not to pass, right? That's your job. That's why you're elected. That's why you're the professional politicians. That's why you guys are in those roles, okay? My job is purely just to tell you, here's the boundaries. So you got to stay within these boundaries of whatever they might be, whether it's a constitutional problem or an actual legal statutory problem, whatever, right? Or the process of going through that. So let's use the motion, you know, I'm going to call it the wonky motion, right? The idea of like, I vote that we don't do anything. And I said, yes, on don't doing anything. Sounds weird, right? When you say it in those terms. But again, that's just part of the procedure that you kind of have to follow. The main point of tonight, though, is your Open Meetings Act. Okay, so you guys are governed by Kansas laws as to what you can or can't do from a meeting standpoint, okay? So basically, Kansas Open Meetings Act only applies to public entities, okay? Public entities being obviously city, the state, you can talk about federal, but state, also is like your county-owned hospitals, and a lot of times like your economic development if they're a pseudo-governmental agency, all the way down to like our subcategories like the cemetery board or the planning commission, you know, stuff like that. Those are all subject to the Open Meetings Act, okay? So basically what it says is what you have to do or what triggers when the rules now actually apply to you, okay? So it's always these three things, all right? That if you have what actually triggers it is when you hold a meeting. And when that occurs is when you have any gathering or assembly in person or through the use of telephone or any other medium for interactive communication, one.
by a majority of the members of the public body and agency. 2, and we'll break these down. And 3, for the purpose of discussing the business or affairs of the public body or agency. Okay? So let's kind of break those down. Any gathering by any level of communication. This is easy. Everybody understands when we get together and you have a meeting, you're trying to do that on purpose, right? A lot of times what the concern, though, is you can accidentally have a meeting. The most common one is what I use all the time, is if you get an email and somebody emails you an agenda packet or something like that, and then somebody replies all to that, and then it sends out to all of you. Well, technically, you have triggered a meeting because you were trying to have a discussion about, what does anybody else think about this, right? And that then gets blasted out to everybody. It's unintentional, but because it's through an email doesn't mean any difference, right? Because it went out to all of you, or at least, we're talking about a majority of your members, so 3, as long as 3 of you communicate, then you've triggered that portion, okay? Another one is like text message chains, right? Oh, hey, by the way, what did you guys, I didn't like that, or blah, 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 whatever. If you text, well, that's going to be 2. A lot of times people overlook this, but it can also occur by accident. Like, let's just say Sarah goes and talks to Angie. Angie then goes and talks to Jason, right? The 3 of you collectively didn't talk to each other, but it's called a serial communication, or the rolling quorum is what it's called. You have created a meeting by saying, hey, I don't know about you, but I think we need to do something about Matt McKenzie's boots. We need to get rid of those things. And then Angie goes, I totally agree. Jason, I just talked to Sarah, and we're going to get this guy at least a decent set of Tacovas or something like that. I can tell they're not. So anyway, you've started a meeting, right? Unintentionally, but that can happen, all right? So then, for the purposes of discussing business affairs, okay, that doesn't mean that the discussion has to be, so how are we going to vote on this? You don't have to have any intention of taking any action. It's just simply talking about, hey, so I think we need to do this, or I think we should talk about blank at the next meeting. You're conducting business, right? So it's not a matter of like, so I'm going to vote yes. How are you going to do, what are you going to do, and yada, yada. That's not what you're doing, right? The whole intent, and follow me on this, is so that you are as open and transparent as possible to the people who elect you, okay? Because the whole idea is they put you in those chairs for a reason, but they need to know what you're doing, right? So what can happen, and this has occurred, is that you guys decide on something like, let's just say, okay, you know what, we're really, really tired of Neil breaking his arm at arm wrestling competitions, and we decide, you know what, I think it's just time for Neil to go to pasture, all right? So then Sarah goes and talks to Angie and says, I think at the next meeting, let's not even talk about it because everybody loves Neil, but he needs to go. So then Angie goes and talks to Jason, and then Jason ultimately talks to JJ, and then, Brooke, they forgot about Brooke. But ultimately you all talk and you're like, this is how we're going to do it. So then you come up to the meeting, you hold the meeting, it's like, okay, actually our first line, we'll go ahead and talk. I'd like a motion to go ahead and terminate Neil's employment. All in favor? Aye. And then just like that. Nobody knows what happened. Nobody knows where that came from. And it's not, again, that's not what you're there for. That's what it's supposed to avoid. So I've gotten pushback on this before, ironically, from people that obviously should have been following the rules, but they weren't. Anyway, this is not saying you cannot talk to each other, right? But just be aware that you can't go through it in a way that's meant to be, look, so when we get to this, I think we should do that, right? Doesn't mean that now, because you got elected, the 5 of you will never be able to communicate to each other ever again. That's not true, okay? Just remember what you're doing and be very cautious as far as what you're discussing or how you're going about it, is the way I'll put it, okay? So, as far as meetings go, another way that this can happen too, and that's why we give you a city email, is so that you keep that as your city's email, okay? I would really, really encourage you to keep your city stuff on your city email. That's why I always ask you, have they got you set up with your email yet? Keep it in there. Because we'll get down to it later, but basically, the best example I can always use on this, because again, it was another hot topic item, if you are found to possibly in violation and it gets turned over to the Attorney General's office, we have to submit all of those things. And if you are using your private emails to conduct your city business, sounds like anybody, does that sound familiar to anybody? Hillary Clinton, you don't want to have to be sending your yoga schedule with your city business, right? That's what can happen, right? So that's why I use that private email for your private stuff. You keep your city stuff within your city's purview, okay? When we talk about meetings, right? So let's just say you intend to have a meeting and all that other stuff. We are actually not required to put notice out there that we're going to have a meeting, but if anybody in the citizens, purview wants to know whenever there's a meeting, they can request that, and we have to give them notice within a reasonable time, okay? So, some things happen. Let's just say, I'm going to go ahead and use it. Say all of a sudden, before we knew it, this huge Greyhound bus and nothing but ICE agents pop off there. I was like, oh, okay, we got to have a special meeting real quick. Same idea. You don't have a lot of time on your side, and we can't publish that and put it all out there, so you can have a special meeting within a reasonable time if something happens, right? Like a water tower imploded, something, right, to where we have to take care of business, okay? But then as far as that goes, we talk about your agendas and your minutes, okay? Same idea. There's nothing in the statutes that require us to have an agenda. We always print it out, you guys have it, and you have your agenda packets. All right. We're not required to have that, but if you do them, they have to be open to the public. That's why we put them on the table for them. But your packets are open, right? So anybody who wants to say, hey, can I have a commissioner's packet? They can say yes, okay? So they can do that, and they can see those things, right? So the other thing that I will tell you is in your own writing. So Sarah was one of the first ones I had do that, 'cause she's our note taker. They can see that, right? So just because you're not using it, you're not reading out of it or whatever, if you've got it up there and it's in an open meeting, it is subject to be open. So again, don't be using your personal diary as your note-taking device for your city stuff, okay? All right? This is another example, and guys, these are all real things that happened. Same thing applies if you need something from me, right? I'm going to do it in a certain way because it's not going to be in your agenda packets unless it's meant to be open to the public. So this actually occurred in the county. They needed an opinion from their attorney as far as what was going on. He couldn't be at the meeting, so he wrote them a letter. They did not put that letter in their agenda packet, if you will, but they brought it to their meeting. And they believed if we don't read this out loud, then that letter is not a public document. Who thinks they were right? Yeah, they were not, right? So they're reading this letter, which is attorney-client privilege. Understand that. That's why there would be a different process, okay? But they were reading this letter to themselves, to a gallery of people sitting right there. If anybody wanted to be like, excuse me, what are you reading? And if they're like, oh, it's just this letter, they're like, I would like to see that. It's there, because they opened it and they were looking at it in a public meeting, okay? So just be aware, all right? Following that, then, let's talk about, so what's the process if I give you something or we need to talk about something or we're entertaining some, trade secrets, we go into what's called executive session. This is the very narrow category of a time that you can still meet and discuss something, but do it behind closed doors and privately. There are statutory requirements as far as specific items that you can go into an executive session for, but you have to make a motion that you're going into executive session under what your justification or your reason is, and the final thing is kind of to tell the discussion of what you're going to talk about. Now, understand, you have to be a little selective on what you say because it's going to be in the motion, so it doesn't do you any good if this is to go into executive session to talk about a sexual harassment claim filed against Dustin's the one closest to me. So Dustin, okay? He's an electric guy. Come on, that was good. I don't care who you are. But anyway, it doesn't do you any good if you because the whole point is to go into executive session to talk about employee matters or something like that, and then turn around and say, to talk about the sexual harassment claim that was filed against Dustin about this thing. That didn't protect him at all, right? The whole intent is to protect your employees, to talk about the concerns of an allegation, whatever, and then you go in there, right? So you be selective on that stuff. When you go into an executive session, though, the topic that you're discussing is what you have to discuss in that executive session, right? So you can't go in under employee matters and then start talking about like, okay, let's talk about more of this RV thing. So we got 5 minutes left. Let's talk about RVs. You can't do that. You got to come out, go into another executive session as long as it fits the requirements of what you can go under. Otherwise, if it doesn't meet those exceptions, you can't go into the executive session, okay? So why does all that matter? What happens to you if you don't do it? So because you're an elected official, and because you're under the purview of the city when you're doing this stuff right, you're under the protections of the Kansas Tort Claims Act, which basically gives you immunity, right? So the idea, though, is if you're not doing this stuff correctly, you're going to be stepping outside of that role, because now you're not doing it as the commissioner. Now you're doing it as the individual, knowing that you're doing it wrong or you're violating the law, okay? So what happens then, a citizen or anybody can then essentially report that to the Attorney General's office or the county attorney's office. They then launch an investigation, and they are going to send us a bunch of questionnaires, and they're going to ask for, if it's through emails, they're going to want all the emails, they're going to want the phone logs, they're going to want all that other stuff, and we have to comply with that. And we have to send that stuff in, and they have to make then a determination as to whether or not there was a violation, okay? They usually try and get it resolved, but at the end of the day, that is the job. And it's not fun. It's not fun to deal with the state when it's a whole questionnaire, right, and all that stuff. So at the end of the day, just don't do it. You're elected to have a meeting. You're supposed to conduct the business here. That's what they put you in the chairs for. So just follow the rules. You'll be fine. You can do whatever you want as far as passing your policies and everything like that. If you want to start recognizing Hawaiian Shirt Fridays will be the thing, you do it. You go for it. But at the end of the day, those are the rules you kind of have to follow in the purviews. There will be times, though, guys, that we do a pretty good job in our meetings, right, of discussing things, and when something needs to be kind of corrected or like guided, we kind of touch on that and stuff like that. But there have been times where something comes up and it's like, okay, whoa. This is probably something more appropriately to be discussed in an executive session or at a later date. And we've had to do that before. Something would come up where it's like, okay, wait a minute. Because again, we don't know who's going to show up for public comment. We don't know what's going to happen, when people show up and stuff like that. So sometimes we can't always call an audible as long as it fits the criteria to say, okay, that I think is something we need to discuss behind closed doors, what we need to discuss and do that way, okay? So what I don't want to have you do is ask me, because then I won't answer you, is ask me then in an open meeting, like, so if we do this, like, how would we get sued? And what's the probability of us winning? Like, that's that type of stuff. I know, Angie, I like your face, but I'll be honest with you, I've had that question before in a meeting. And I said, I don't think we should be discussing our liability as far as in a public meeting. But anyway, so that's kind of how it works, all right? If you have a question or if something comes up, you can talk to me. I would say, though, most of your communication needs to go through Kent and Mary and all that other stuff. So just so you're aware, yeah, something comes like, I had somebody ask me about this. Can you explain this to me? I got no problem with that. You're perfectly fine. Okay. All right. Anything else? Okay. Oh, and also, I think it goes without saying, but I have to say it. Obviously, what you discuss in executive session is also not supposed to go outside of executive session, right? If it ends up being something like, okay, we have this employee matter because of this allegation, I think we need to go ahead and terminate him. You're going to come out of executive session, and then you're going to then make your motion to terminate so-and-so, whatever, for a whatever, impropriety, whatever, and do it that way, okay? So, but outside of that, though, you cannot go into executive session, let's say under trade secrets, and then go down to the coffee shop and say, yeah, well, we were not really supposed to say anything, but they are going to need, they have this whole apparatus, and this is how they're going to do all this other stuff. That's a violation, too. So, okay. Anybody got any questions? Okay. So, I know he said it was in the agenda packets, but you guys had that handbook, don't you? That guidelines? Okay, and I gave you yours, Angie?
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to tell you that it's my favorite. It's the one I use all the time because, again, they have like real world examples, right? And it's, to me, it's the best one I've ever had. I did some changes to it, but there's really very few things that can really occur on a normal daily basis that aren't already in there. So I would stick with that. Okay. All right. That's all I got for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank
Jake, as always, entertaining. We appreciate the information.
Sexy topic, right?
All right, I appreciate that. Does anybody have anything else? If not, I make a motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Second.
Need a second.
Oh.
Make a motion to adjourn. I'd accept a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Howard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.